There was a hiring ritual in American rail yards in the 1880s that tells you everything you need to know. A man would walk up looking for work as a brakeman. The yardmaster would not ask for references. He would not ask where the man had worked before. He would just say one thing: hold up your hands. If the man was missing 2 or 3 fingers, he got the job. Missing fingers meant experience. Missing fingers meant he had survived long enough to lose them. A brakeman with all 10 fingers was a rookie, and a rookie was a liability, because a rookie had not yet learned the one thing every old hand knew. The thing between the cars would take part of you. The only question was how much. The thing between the cars was the link and pin coupler. And for half a century, it was the most dangerous piece of equipment in America. Before we get into it, hit subscribe and drop a comment letting us know where you are watching from. We want to know who is out there. Here is how it worked, if you want to call it working. Every freight car had a slot in the end, a pocket. The brakeman carried an oval iron link, a heavy loop he held in one hand. When 2 cars needed to join, the brakeman stepped in between them, both cars moving. He held the link up, lined it into the pocket of the car coming at him, and the instant the cars met, he dropped an iron pin down through a hole to lock the link in place. Read that again. He stood between 2 moving cars. He held a piece of iron up with his bare hand, and he dropped a pin at the exact half second the cars slammed together. Half a second early, fine. Half a second late, the cars closed on his hand, or his arm, or if he stumbled on the uneven track, on him. The space between the cars when they met was just wide enough for a man, until it wasn't. And he did this all day, not once. Not twice. A switching crew in a busy yard coupled and uncoupled cars over and over, shift after shift, day and night. In the rain that made the link slick in his fist. In the snow that hid the rails and the frozen ground he had to brace his boots on. In the dark, with one lantern, reading the gap between 2 black shapes coming together by feel and sound more than sight. The link was the only thing he could control. The cars were going to do what the cars were going to do. The Linda Hall Library put it plain. Mangled hands and missing fingers were the badge of the experienced worker. One moment of lapsed attention and the switchman would lose a finger, a hand, or his life. There was a wooden buffer block on the old cars called the dead wood, and if you got caught against the dead wood when the slack ran in, it did exactly what the name says. In December of 1891, the President of the United States stood before Congress and laid out the toll. Benjamin Harrison told them that in a single year, the year ending June 1890, 369 brakemen had been killed and 7,841 had been maimed coupling cars in 1 year. And that was just coupling. In the 10 years between 1883 and 1892, American railroads recorded 5,623 worker deaths and 20,445 injuries. Think about what that means. If you braked freight in 1893, you had a 1 in 9 chance of being injured that year. 1 in 115 of being killed every year. Brakeman was statistically the single most dangerous job in America, with a death rate historians have put at more than double coal mining and hard rock mining combined. The most dangerous work in the country, and the thing that made it the most dangerous was a loop of iron and a pin. The railroads knew. Everybody knew. The brakemen formed their own brotherhood in the 1880s because nobody else would take care of their widows. When a brakeman named Frank got crushed coupling cars in Chenoa, Illinois in 1892, the newspaper said the scene was too awful and dreadful for description. He died instantly, left a wife and 2 young children, His brotherhood paid the family $1,000. That was the going rate for a man back then. $1,000 in a closed casket. So why did the railroads keep using it? Same reason they always have. Money. The Lincoln pin was dirt cheap. A loop of iron and a pin any blacksmith could bang out. Replacing every coupler on every car in America was going to cost a fortune, and as long as it was the brakeman bleeding and not the balance sheet, the railroads were in no hurry. The fix already existed. That is the part that makes this so bitter. His name was Eli Janney. A Confederate major during the Civil War, he served on Robert E. Lee's own staff. After the war, he was nobody, a dry goods clerk in Alexandria, Virginia, selling fabric and buttons behind a counter. No engineering degree, no mechanical training, nothing. But he had seen the maimed men around town, and on his lunch breaks he sat there with a pocket knife whittling a block of wood, trying to solve a problem the entire railroad industry had decided was just the cost of doing business. One day he hooked his own fingers together, two hands, knuckles bent, fingers curled but not closed into a fist. When you push two hands like that together, they lock, pull a lever and they let go. No man between the cars, no hand in the gap, no pin to drop at the killing half second. He patented it April 29, 1873. United States patent number 138,405, the knuckle coupler. The same basic design still holding together every freight train in North America 150 years later. And for years, the railroads were in no hurry to use it. That is the part that grinds. Janney kept refining the design through 1879 and 1882 until it was ready for real service. The Master Car Builders Association tested it against every rival coupler, proved it was the best, and got a partial waiver on the patent in 1888 to make it the industry standard. The railroads even started putting it on cars after 1888. But voluntary is the key word. Without anybody forcing them, they moved at their own pace while brakemen kept dying by the hundreds every year. A better coupler existed. The men in the yards just had to wait for the railroads to feel like paying for it. It took an act of Congress to force their hand. March 2, 1893, the Railroad Safety Appliance Act. For the first time in American history, the federal government reached into a private industry and told them how to run their equipment. Every car in interstate commerce had to have automatic couplers and air brakes. No more men between the cars. The railroads got a grace period stretching to 1900 to comply. Even being ordered to stop killing their workers, they got years to do it on their own schedule. But it worked. God, did it work. Before Janney, nearly 40% of all rail worker injuries and deaths came from coupling. By 1902, 2 years after the deadline, that number had dropped to 4%. 40% to 4%. From 1893 to 1908, deaths and injuries fell by a third, even as the railroads hired 43% more men. The single deadliest job in America became survivable, almost overnight, because of a piece of iron shaped like two clasped hands that a fabric clerk whittled out of wood on his lunch break. That is why the Lincoln pin coupler was banned forever. Not because it stopped working, it coupled cars fine. It was banned because it was a machine that ate men. For half a century, it took fingers and hands and arms and lives by the thousands, and the railroads let it because iron pins were cheap and brakemen were cheaper. The only thing that stopped it was the federal government finally saying no. Next time you stand at a crossing and watch a freight roll by, look at where the cars join. Those knuckles locking and holding car after car after car. That is Eli Janney's hands. And every one of them is there because of the men who lost their own, teaching the country a lesson it should never have needed to learn. Hold up your hands. The old-timers knew exactly what that meant.